This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. Are Cambodians to be banned from entering the United States? Well, the Washington Post thinks so. A man hacks off a young boy's head due to him knowing too much, and the country's biggest ever dental operation ends with resounding success. But firstly, it's our headline story, and this one really did come out of left field. It is something I would certainly never have expected to say. The headline said it all. Reports that USA is considering adding Cambodia to list of countries facing full or partial entry ban to United States. The Washington Post reported this week that President Trump's administration is considering significantly expanding its travel restrictions by potentially banning or restricting citizens of 36 additional countries from entering the United States. And in that list, it includes Cambodia. The WP cites an internal diplomatic cable in which the US State Department outlined a dozen concerns about the countries in question. It said, the department has identified 36 countries of concern that might be recommended for full or partial suspension of entry if they do not meet requirements within 60 days. The Post's report said that the memo identified benchmarks that these countries were failing to meet, including what they say was non-cooperative central government able to produce reliable identity documents. It also said that some of these countries suffered from widespread government fraud. It is also said that there were issues with citizens from some of these countries who continually overstay their visas when they enter the United States. This new list is a significant expansion of travel restrictions. In July, the United States fully restricted entry of individuals from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Guinea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, as well as already partially restricting entry from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Tonga, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. And with this additional 36 countries, it makes, without any doubt, the most sweeping travel ban by any nation in modern history. As to how this plays out, may well not be only a matter for politicians, as legal questions are now being raised in the American courts. On this week's crime desk, a young boy is beheaded for he knew too much about his uncle. A man abuses a mentally ill woman but is caught on film. And another senior official faces some very serious questions on charges of financial wrongdoing. We open our crime desk this week with an absolute horror story. It's all about a farmer who did the unthinkable. The headline tells it all. Farmer decapitates 6-year-old nephew over disrespect. Yes, a farmer has been arrested for beheading his young nephew. Kim Chek has now been arrested in Banteay Minche province for a murder that shocked not just the rural community in which he lives, but the entire nation. The 31-year-old farmer was arrested in Kok Tom village, Banteay Minche province. And if you recall last week's story about a man who bashed in his 3-year-old niece's head with a brick, killing her as she slumbered, then you may recall that that guy was a drug addict. And so again, we find that this murder of an infant could also be fueled by drugs, as the farmer was known to be an addict. One Monday afternoon, the farmer went to confront the little boy over perceived disrespect. And before we go any further, I need to remind you how old this victim was. He was just 6 years of age. And the reason he died was he had threatened to inform his grandparents about his uncle's drug use. An argument quickly broke out between the man and the boy, and it soon became violent. Once the man had overpowered the boy, he then got a machete and, laying the boy on the floor, he rained down blow after blow until he had hacked off his head. When he had completed his gruesome task, he then gathered up the head and the body and he buried them behind the family home. But it was not long. At 10 p.m, in fact, that very same evening, the grandmother came across the shallow grave, and what she saw made her scream in abject horror. During the interrogation, the suspect confessed to killing the victim, saying that he was angry over perceived insults, and he had indeed decapitated the young boy. If convicted, the farmer faces a 15-year prison sentence. And the horror continues, as this week, a lady who had no advantages in life and had only known a life of struggle was preyed upon by a depraved neighbour. The headline told this very sorry tale. Man arrested for rape of mentally disabled woman. A man was arrested this week after he raped a mentally disabled woman. And this was not just one assault. As inquiries soon discovered, he had assaulted her numerous times, making this lady's life a living hell. Mr. Yung Yen, who is 64, was arrested by Khmer City Police in connection with the assaults of the 35-year-old woman. The rapes occurred several times, the last time being on June the 8th at the victim's house. And this predator did not just take advantage of the fact that she was mentally ill, but also that the only other person in that small house in the quiet countryside was her elderly mother, and she had severe dementia. To all others in the village, he seemed like a kindly man, as he used to regularly provide food and water to the victim's family. But it was all just a ploy, as when he was in the house, he would violently assault the young woman, and he did so numerous times. The abuse went on for many long weeks. According to the suspect's confession, the suspect sneaked into the victim's house and talked to her, and he then had sex with her. But a cousin got wind that something was not quite right, and one night a trap was laid. And the most recent incident was caught on film, when she had set up a video trap within the house. It was all the evidence she needed to create a cast iron case against this sexual predator. The victims' families filed a complaint with the Svaroy police station, and the suspect has now been detained, and a court case is now being prepared against him. The crackdown on corruption and illegal goings-on in high places continues, as yet another minister now faces some very difficult questions indeed. The news broke with this: ministry official summoned to court over fraud. The man in the headlines is Mr. Sa Takvi, and he holds a very senior position, for he is the Under Secretary of State at the Ministry of National Defence. And he has now been summoned by an investigating judge to appear in front of him over land fraud cases in Priknov district. The Lieutenant General is to answer questions over a 2017 fraud involving payment of $200,000 in a bogus land deal. The summons issued by the investigating judge requests that Tavi's presence to address the allegations made by the prosecution of the Phnom Penh Municipal Court. It asserts that between 2017 and 2018, Tavi allegedly accepted $200,000 as part of a fraudulent land transaction in the village of Samrong Chang. And this bold fraud involved big money, as according to the investigating report, Tavi signed a contract to sell over 102 1,000 square meters of land to an individual for $409,000, nearly a cool $500,000. However, after receiving the initial deposit of $200,000 from the buyer, Tavi allegedly failed to transfer the ownership title, citing restrictions on the land. But it was not this high-ranking military official's first rodeo, as he had been previously summoned for involvement in similar land fraud cases. He had been questioned by the Siem Reap Provincial Court in 2024 regarding a pyramid scheme, again involving fraudulent selling of land that they did not own. But now his gravy train has come to an abrupt halt, as the judge now wants answers as to who did what and when did they do it. As you may know, I try to finish each week with something unique. And what I have for you on the news trolley of delights is a story so unique, it is in fact a first for the nation. This story also involves dental work on an elephant, which to me is pretty cool. History was made this week with Cambodia's first ever impacted elephant tusk extraction surgery. Who knew that elephants, just like us humans, could get impacted teeth? You know, a tooth that fails to break the skin and forever grows inward. Something that is painful just as a tooth, but as a tusk? Well, that must really hurt. Poor old elephant. The operation itself required much advanced planning, with specialists flying in from South Africa, India, Thailand, as well as Singapore. In this landmark achievement in Cambodia, the country's first ever surgical extraction of an impacted tusk, it was successfully completed at Kulon Elephant Forest. The complex procedure was performed on a 45-year-old female elephant, a long-time resident of that sanctuary. A specially constructed field hospital was built in the jungle, and if the tusk was left untreated, it could have caused serious infection that maybe would have led to the elephant's demise. A David pilot said, "This is a historic moment for elephant care in Cambodia, and we are incredibly proud to have worked alongside Wildlife Alliance, a world-class team of veterinary specialists." And the Wildlife Alliance deserves a hearty round of applause from us, not only for this remarkable feat. I mean, just think about it. Just anaesthetizing an elephant alone is seriously fraught with danger, let alone major dental work on this scale. The Wildlife Alliance is wonderful for their continued work as a leading conservation organisation, protecting forests and endangered species, with their many anti-poaching initiatives as well as habitat protection. So, well done to one and all. I raise my hat and I say hurrah for the country's most complicated and successful bit of dental work being a complete success. Well done, indeed. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And here we are, the final chapter in the book of news, and it's the weather. Now I'm going to sprint through this because we've got so much to do. And firstly, we go back to a dear friend of the show, Yobbo. Hello, Yobbo. Now, Yobbo, wow, he spotted it. I am so amazed when I read this comment. What he said was, Mr. B uses the weather segment to show us how exciting life can be without women, drugs, vodka, and cigarettes. He's absolutely right. I'm so pleased that somebody understands what I'm doing here. The weather, let's face facts, is either sunny and it's burning hot, or it's raining and we may as well all be ducks or fish. But Yobbo, God bless him, has seen what I'm doing here. It's not just to entertain, it's to say, look, there is a better different way of doing things than being in what I was, which is the absolute hell of alcoholism. So, yes, that's why I do these things. And let's get to what we're doing this week. And it's Weird Things on a Bridge. Yeah, this will be a one-time only segment, you can tell that. And what it is I was cycling along when I spotted this guy in the middle of nowhere just pounding away at his clay, shall we say. And he's pounding and pounding, and he seems to be having fun. Why not? You know, I was a teenage boy once myself, and I couldn't work out what he was doing. So have a look at this and tell me, what is this guy doing? He's making something, but what is he making? I'm giving you just 3 seconds, and 2 and 1. Well, amazingly, he's making little balls, pellets, for his slingshot, which you can clearly see on his waist there. And he shows us how it's done. And there you go. He gets his slingshot out and he gives it a damn good hard tugging. Pounding and tugging. Right, which brings us very smoothly to, oh God, here we go. He's pounding and tugging, and me, I can barely get it up every week. The same problem. Hold on, I've got to push these buttons. Hold on, no. Whoa, ho, ho! I've got it up. What we have here is the weather in Celsius, because I keep getting mail saying, why are you doing it in Fahrenheit? So here it is in Celsius for all those people who keep mentioning it. 30 degrees Celsius, 88% humidity. The maximum high as I scan the board is 34 degrees. And as you can see, it's a bit of a disaster, isn't it really? It's thunder and it's rainstorms across the board. And if by chance you've got a view about the weather or the show or anything else and you want to contact me like all these other people, just go to the Khmer Times on YouTube, go to the most recent news show, my show, and write a comment below. And I read every single one of them. So maybe you'll appear in next week's show.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.